Sickle cell disease is an inherited genetic condition that can cause crippling pains and shorten lifespans. The sickle cell gene is passed from generation to generation in a pattern of inheritance called autosomal recessive inheritance. This simply means that both parents must pass on the gene for a child to be affected.
We say it's inherited, and that is why the problem occurs at that very early stage, because the problem is gotten from the egg and the sperm that forms that individual eventually. So there is a mutation at the hemoglobin gene. The gene is what the body, the building block of every cell and tissue in the body. So the gene for hemoglobin production, especially the globin portion of hemoglobin production, has a problem at that early stage of conception. So the individual that is born is now born with that genetic abnormality, and it's a very small abnormality. It's called a point mutation.
To the ordinary Nigerian, there are three major blood genotypes: the normal, which is AA, the abnormal or sickle cell threats, which is AS, and the sickle cell disease sufferers, SS. People with AS blood group are called sickle cell threats because they have one normal hemoglobin gene and one sickle cell hemoglobin gene. Although they generally don't show symptoms of the diseases, if two carriers marry, they stand a chance of having a sickle cell disease patient. However, hematologists says this and more are some of the misconceptions people believe about genotypes and hemoglobins.
What people call genotype is not genotype. The test results we usually carry around and say, this, I have my genotype is AA. It's not genotype. It is supposed to be called phenotype. It's a molecular testing method, which we don't do here. So, and that's test we do here have its limitation. The normal hemoglobin is A, that's adult hemoglobin, and it's of two types, A1 and A2. Then when we are in our mother's womb, we have another hemoglobin type. We have hemoglobin F, we have hemoglobin GOA, and so on. Apart from these ones, there are other types of, when they now have mutation, there are other types of hemoglobin type that can arise, like hemoglobin C, hemoglobin E, okay, hemoglobin D. There's ones called hemoglobin Punjab. There's hemoglobin O Arab. There's hemoglobin Ibadan and hemoglobin Benin. Depending on the locations they were discovered. So what we're saying is that the mutations varies and they give rise to different hemoglobin types. That's why the so-called parents may think they are AA, but they are either AC or AE or AD. You understand? And when they now have another mate or partner that is AS, the S might combine with, say, C, and the patient will be SC. And most laboratories, unfortunately, don't have the facility to distinguish between S and C. There's someone that has hemoglobin SC from SS or SD, or even there are the ones that are called S-beta thal. That's the one that gives us a lot of problem. S-beta thal individuals, if you do the normal genetic testing we do here, that's hemoglobin electrophoresis, you will give the person AA.
Sickle cell diseases are usually diagnosed in infancy and early childhood. However, it can also be diagnosed in adult age.
You can do prenatal genetic diagnosis of sickle cell disease. Again, when the baby is born, usually it can be diagnosed maybe within 6 months, from 6 months of birth, it can be diagnosed, because before 6 months of birth, the child may not have any problem or may not have any sign and symptom because the mother's blood is still inside that baby, helping the baby to survive. But from 6 months, when that hemoglobin abnormality rises to that critical level, then the child might start having problem. So it can be diagnosed as early as 6 months of birth.
One of the most common sickle cell diseases is the sickle cell anemia, which results in abnormality in the oxygen-carrying protein hemoglobin found in the red blood cells. This means a condition in which there aren't enough red blood cells to carry adequate oxygen throughout the body system of the sufferer. This causes shortness of breath, fatigue, and delayed growth and development in children.
They usually have typical feature that one can readily recognize and say, oh, this person has sickle cell disease. What do I mean by that? They can have what we call bursting of the frontal bone here. It will shoot out. They can have natopathy, this cheekbone shooting out, even here shooting out. They can have stunted growth, okay? And they can have bursting of the head, even the occipital or the back shooting out. And then their eyes will be yellow. Most times. So when you see such typical features, you can say, oh, this person may have sickle cell disease. Their life is usually that of pain. And that pain, if they pay attention, they will find out that it is preceded by something else. Something like fever. They also have weakness, headache. Then they will notice that their urine is now even darker than it used to be.
It moves like it's moving in your vein. You know, sometimes it will start from your leg, from the ankle. It will be going up. At the end of the day, all the joints, all your system will turn. You won't get yourself again, because it's something that is moving in the blood to enter the brain everywhere. You know, disorganized. In short, it got to a time. Anywhere I'm going, I will put analgesics in my pocket.
I will not get pains na too much. I will not get itchy na too much. Because when they go on pains, and I say, hey, I say,
Sickle cell diseases can also lead to more life-threatening complications, which can lead to death.
I see sickle cell disease patients coming with renal shutdown. That's the kidney has failed. I see them coming with shortened limb. The disease has already eaten up the bone of the hip and shortened the limb, and they are now limping and are in severe pain. I see them coming with wound, ulcer on the leg that has eaten up the skin and the muscles of the leg, very big, and they will present either very foul smelling, long standing, and the patient is sick, is febrile, fever, sepsis. I see them with complications like what we call sequestration crisis. You see the person, the blood will be pooling in the spleen or the liver. Even if you transfuse the person, the whole thing will drain into the liver or the spleen. The patient is so in pain, so sick. So I see them in what we call aplastic crisis. This time around, the bone marrow is shut down.
There is also a stereotypical misconception that patients of sickle cell diseases do not have long lifespans. However, Humphrey Otiji, a sickle cell patient in his 50s, and Aisha Edwards, a sufferer in her late 30s, share their experiences and stories.
Initially, like a small boy, you play around with other people, because you don't understand, what is happening to you. So I like football, and I play football very well. I also like gymnastics. I did a little of karate and taekwondo. But in everything, especially football, when I was very young, I discovered that when I play 5 minutes, 10 minutes, my whole system will change. And by the time I stop playing to rest, crisis will come. Same thing with other sports, gymnastics, everything. Anything you do that will, give you a lot of stress, you avoid it. So I preferred watching other people playing, because I discovered that when I play, I end up in a hospital. So, and with the pains, the crisis, the pains are not child's play.
My experience living with sickle cell disorder right from childhood has been a mixture of feelings of all kinds. Sometimes it appears to be emotional roller coaster. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it's happy moments. But all in all, it seems we go through a whole lot of pain, much more than the happy moments from birth. But being that we're born with it, at some time we accustom your body system, towards that pain, and consequently, you don't feel so bad about it.
Socially, sickle cell patients are seen as weak and often suffer discrimination and stigmatization.
Every day, it's going to say, hey, I'm not doing it. So, I'm going to do them. I'm not going to hear them and not the come or one jet, not the one jet go. Can't get one, some not where I want Tarap, some are not where Jaquam, some not where one gabi. So, how about I had the teach?
When you are sick and you go to hospital and the medical practitioners are treating you as or you will hear side comments they are making, beating your parents, that is just to manage, and very soon the person will die.
Some unethical doctors create the impression that these children usually do not live so long, and then also forget that their attitude has contributed to our own untimely deaths, because it is their attitude that sends us away from hospital. Hospital is supposed to be the place that we run to. Society have this unwritten law that doesn't employ people living with sickle cell anemia, and these are degenerated to a level of people denying their status, people telling lies in their CVs. Now, people even lying to their various spouses. Do you understand? Their husband. People will lie that they are this, they are that, and they are not that. That also results to people going to forge their genotype results.
Although many religious bodies claim to have cure for the diseases, bone marrow transplant, according to medical experts, is the only medically acclaimed cure for sickle cell diseases.
Medically, there is a cure practiced world over. It's called stem cell or bone marrow transplant. Luckily for us in Nigeria, in the last few years, it's becoming available in Nigeria, though out of reach of most patients. The cost is still very high. It's a procedure whereby the stem cell of an AA individual is now put inside body of an SS patient. And it's like blood transfusion, it's just that the processes around it is very complex.
The National Coordinator of Association of People Living with Sickle Cell Diseases in Nigeria, Aisha Edward, says, until a member of her association is cured, sickle cell disease has no cure.
Sickle cell, to the best of my knowledge, yes, some professionals will say, oh, there's a cure. I won't believe that type of message until I see that center here in the southeast, and I will see those that they have transplanted, and I will give a reasonable period of time to ensure that that person truly survives it before I can risk the life of my members. My members are not guinea pigs.
Although the disease is almost incurable, it is not a death sentence. Hematologists and even the adult sufferers have all agreed that if properly managed, a sickle cell patient can live a normal life.
The only and everlasting cure I know for sickle cell is the right attitude to a person living with sickle cell. If you do that, that person lives as long as 90-something, 100-something years.
one of the things I did was the food. Mainly food. You don't play with vegetables and the fruits.
There are natural factors and environmental factors that can help sickle cell patients to live longer. When we're in our mother's womb, there is a type of hemoglobin we have. It's called fetal hemoglobin, hemoglobin F. Very good hemoglobin type, efficient oxygen carrier. That is a natural modifier, and medicine is trying to harness it. There is a drug we use in sickle cell disease patients called hydroxyurea. That drug targets to increase the level of hemoglobin F in them. We have the environmental, which plays a critical role if it can be achieved. One of them is good nutrition, good hygiene, good environment, clean environment, love. If they can be showered with lots of love, lots of care, and live in an environment that is free of infections, malaria especially, as early as possible, they should be protected from infection. They should be given good nutrition. They should be well hydrated, and they should not be stressed.
One preventive measure of sickle cell disease is knowing your blood genotype before marriage and reproduction. And if you are a carrier, avoid partners who are also carriers.
One of the options is that you are AS and you are AS. Both partners are AS. They can choose not to go ahead with the marriage. Because for every pregnancy, there is a 25% chance that you will get S. Then the choice is theirs. So that is one option. The second option is prenatal diagnosis. You can actually diagnose sickle cell when the baby is still in the womb. So some people, especially in foreign countries that don't care about abortion, they usually do abort. Due to religious and ethical reasons, it is not usually done. That gave rise to what we call pre-implantation genetic testing. So it can actually be done before implantation. That's you check the egg, you harvest the eggs, and sperm can be harvested these days. So you can harvest egg and sperm and check whether they have the hemoglobin S, and then choose the egg and the sperm that doesn't have S gene, and then implant them. That's in vitro fertilization. When they mature to some level, you now transplant into the woman's womb.
Sickle cell disease is both time-consuming, expensive, and exhausting.
So mgbe bidozi na-agwa ihe a ka ọ na-aya nwa dị 14 years kịta ka mbe mana the team bịa tichie ya nature ihu ị ga-eche ma ọnwa 11 years or 10 years. The team bịa tichie ya nature nwanne nke ọ kọrọ kịta nyanwa bụ primary 6 ka ọ na-agụ maka ihe a na-adọghachi ya azụ na school nyanwa etochigo ịnọ class 3 kịta ihe adọghachizie ya azụ ya nọ primary 6 kịta maka enwe ike during the exam time onwe ike bido n'ahịa ahụ ọ ga-ekwezi ga skuul onwe ike ọ nọtụkwa ya bido n'isi ya wakwa si ya ka m na-agabiga anọkwa ya ha ahapụ ma ọ ga m ma ihe ụfọdụ agazi ekwe enechi agarị anya na ahụ anaghị sọsọ m enwe ike ọ yara ahụ a na-etigharị na ndị mmadụ si ebigo ha ha ebuo m
sometimes I want to do before so the thing that after season, season. So after that, so Anna went to 10 and died one. So mommy met up with them is no much up all the two of the team in the was. I got them. Seminar, Roger Mr. Bob was. So the Roger Mr. Chapa, the same not better. I was one of the so now was young, once in your soul. Obidi odimka onye ama ọmụagụ da odimka ma ọmụagụ
ma ndị nọkwa n'ezi kwesịkwara iji agbamume ebe a mụnwa nọ taata ekwu okwu were agbamume mụnwa n'ebe a wee na-edi ihe ọsọgodo ha nọ n'ime ha kwesịrị ka ha na-edi ya ọ bụrụ ihe dịka crisis bịakwa ị ga-edi ya ana m agbazikwa ha ọnụ ka ha na-erichi akwụkwọ nri anya akwụkwọ nri ụmụ nke kacha mkpa ụtazi onweghị onye amụghị maka ihe a na-akpọ ụtazi ka a na-erichi anya ana m ayọ onye ọbụla dịka nsi wee kwu ayọkwa m ka onye ọbụla nyerekwa aka fụ na nwanne ya nọ nso ụdị ihe a na-eme na-erikwe akwụkwọ nri na-aṅụchikwa ọgwụ ya anya
amabụrụ m na sickle maka mgbe m mụrụ my child ubuka onye fụrụ ya nwere mgbe ha ejikọta n'isikwara ka ọ bụ nọ mgbe ahụ amụgo m ụmụ abụọ mfe ahụ ya bịa aga ụlọ ọgwụ si na aga onye ide blọd ma dọkịta si bifo a na-etinye blọd ka amalụgodo ihe na ya emeela abasị na sickle na enyi ide blọd na a ga-eje gote ma ọ bụ amịtala ọgam ịga adịrọ nwesa enene nke ọgam bụ na pasentị blọd agbagotela ewee nene nke m nwa ọgbagote adịkwa m ime that time ewee sị na ya egote sa ha egote na ha mere m si na ndị ime na ma mmiri sa ha mere m n'ọnwa m na nwa m na nwere ike bife a na-agbago ọka anata na nwa m ga-anwụ amere m ọbara n'afọ ime ahụ wee menyere ya ọ mụchakwa na dị blọd dị mma egokọtago m ọgwụ espendgo ego too much n'alụ nwa obido ya ebe a na-asị kedu n'ọmụ kpatara ihe a this girl ji atara afọ nwee mgbe ọ ga-ebido ya ọma nga ije 5 days ọ ya edina n'ofu ebe na-ebe akwa si na ọ na-atị ya n'ọkpa o si n'ọkpa ọbaa n'afọ ya na-eme mgbawa o si n'ọkpa ọbaa n'aka na-eke ọ ya esi n'ebe ike akwụrụ ọtọ bụ ma ọ bụrụ nsị na ọ bụrụ ihe a ga-eme ntụpụ na ọ bụrụ ihe a na-ayakwere mmadụ na mma ayakwere nwaanyị gị na-ata afọ too much.
As these patients and their families fight this crisis for their daily lives, it is expected that government and non-governmental bodies will come together to create proper awareness on the disease and help the patients.
First and foremost thing you can do for a sickle cell child out there is to pass a law that can guarantee him or her his rights. People are not being fair to us. Job-wise, they discriminate us. Medical-wise, people that have other health challenges like HIV have interventions, have sponsors. Now, if people like HIV patients could be granted free drugs, subsidized medical bill, and so on and so, why not do it for persons living with sickle cell disorder?
According to research, Nigeria has one of the highest number of people living with sickle cell disease in the world. With a population of over 200 million and an annual growth rate of more than 5%, about 25% of adults throughout Nigeria has sickle cell genetic threats. A research by World Health Organization in 2014 shows that at least 100,000 babies die from the disorder in Nigeria every year. Experts say the disease remains endemic in the country due to lack of proper awareness, fund, and government policies.